Emma Jane Maurer. How are you today?
I'm well. Thank you for having me, Asada.
Thank you so much for your time and coming to this talk today. I was looking forward to get to know you and talk to you. So thank you so much. Um, if I just want to uh, interview, uh, introduce you to our audiences, I just want to tell people about your bio in your Instagram, which impressed me very much. It
Thank you
says,
so much.
Emma Jane Maurer, if you know my story, my heaven and my hell, if you know my story, you would have a good story to tell. And you quoted from Bright Star. So that actually impressed me so much. And I would like you to tell us about your story.
Okay. So I actually was born with a medical condition called hydrocephalus, which is where the cerebral spinal fluid doesn't drain off the brain properly. The doctors don't know how I acquired it. They believe that I suffered a stroke in the womb, but they don't know how or why that happened. Because my mom was perfectly healthy, like not, didn't drink, smoke, do alcohol, any of that. So they don't know why. But yeah, I was diagnosed with hydrocephalus in the womb. And so as a result of that, I also have cerebral palsy, which is muscle weakness on the right side of my body. And as a result of my hydrocephalus, I had a shunt put in my brain, which goes back here all the way down to my stomach, which is how the cerebral spinal fluid drains off. And I had the shunt placed at 1 day old. And then I've had 9 revisions since. Actually 10. I had one when I was 6 months old, and then I was fine for 10 years. And actually the day after my 11th birthday, I went into the hospital for the first series of revisions. And I say series because that was when I had the 9 brain surgeries between the ages of 11 and 16. And it was pretty much like 3 surgeries every 3 years was the way I calculated it, because it was 3 in 5th grade, 3 in 8th grade, and then 3 in 10th grade. And so, yeah, and then as a result of the cerebral palsy, I also have had some surgeries related to that as well. Did you want to ask any more questions, or do you just want me to keep going?
That's very impressive because I have not been in the similar condition with you, but I had health issues throughout my life that I was about to get disabled. And you are saying that you have this since you have born.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that is a series of procedures that you had. How did you feel about that? How does that mean to you?
Well, growing up, it's very interesting. It's kind of a dichotomy, I guess. Like, it's like, man, I have this medical condition, like I'm special, but I also knew, like I'm special and I'm different than my peers, and kind of took it in stride. But on the other hand, it was kind of like my peers, even though it's an invisible illness, I would say, like my peers knew that something was off. And so I was always the outcast, like, always picked last for gym class and things like that. And I had a few good friends, but like, and I wasn't popular by any means or anything like that. But just, I think, my peers kind of ostracized me because of my medical conditions. And so, like, take, for example, my first surgery, like, that I really knew, like, what was going on, happened in 5th grade. And so my birthday, I went into school on my birthday, and I had to tell my peers, like, hey, I'm not coming to school tomorrow because I'm going in, like, and here's why, like, I'm going in for brain surgery. And I couldn't do it. I kind of had this mentality, like I'm a very sensitive person and I cry easily. And so I knew like, I remember when I was that age, my parents kind of had the discussion with me, like, it's not okay to cry in public. So I was so scared because I was like, and I did cry, trying to tell my peers. And it got to the point where my teacher had to tell them. Um, and I stood at the front of the room while she told them that Emma Jane's not coming to school tomorrow because she's having brain surgery. Um, and looking back, I'm like, man, that was really weak of me. Because I couldn't stand up to my peers and like come out right and say like, yes, I'm different, and here's why. Take it or leave it. It took till I was, I guess I'd say like a junior in high school, where I really embraced it. And of course, at the time, I was in a new school. I didn't go to public high school. I went to a private high school, so new classmates and everything. And then I decided for my public speaking class that I was going to give an informative speech on what hydrocephalus is and how it affects the body and affected me specifically. And then senior year, I wrote an expository essay for my creative writing class on like the different kinds of hydrocephalus. And so for me, it was like, okay, this is a movement of like education and advocacy. Like I'm ready to, I'm ready to come out, I guess, to the world. Like this is who I am, take it or leave it kind of a thing.
Okay.
But yeah, and I also felt really weird too, like in 5th grade, especially when I had the surgery, because I don't know if you can see, I kind of long hair. It used to be down to like the middle of my back or whatever. And then 5th grade, I just decided like, just because I'm going to get like a bob cut. So I had it, cut up to my chin, which ended up being good, because then they would have had to shave some of the hair for the surgery. And I'd rather, have them just shave it rather than have the doctors, go completely haywire and just cut it without kind of having some semblance to it. And they were only supposed to shave like a thin straw, like around, what we would call the shunt tract, just so that they would have access to that. But then the one doctor just decided to let his resident in charge, and he completely shaved half my head. And so when I like discovered that fact, I was mortified because I was like, man, what are my peers going to think of me going back to school? Like, my hair wasn't as curly as it is now. It was more wavy. My family likes to joke and say that, oh, it got curly because of the anesthesia. So I don't know, anesthesia, hormones, whatever. But I didn't understand that, like, it's okay. We can style the hair so that it covers the scar, but I was still like, man, what are they going to say? Are they going to think I have cancer because half my head of hair is gone, and it's like, that's not true. Like, I don't want you going around saying I have cancer because I don't have cancer. It's a brain condition, and it goes back to this is who I am.
I see.
Take it or leave it kind of a thing. So yeah, it's been kind of a bumpy up and down ride, but I think I'm on the uphill of more so education and advocacy. Explaining to my peers like
I like your attitude that as this is my condition, I would like to educate people about this, and you took that lecture at your public.
And I think it's also stemming from the fact that hydrocephalus is pretty common. I have a stat sheet, and I have to look to see like if they updated it, but I think the latest stat that I knew was like 1 in 500 children can be born with it every year. But then you also can get diagnosed with it at any age. but like just that fact, like one in 500 babies are born with it every year, but
That's very
everybody's
common.
like, hydro, what? Like no one knows about it. And so the Hydrocephalus Association's big push is education and advocacy, like to be able to get more research, because their big thing is there is no cure. Like the only cure is brain surgery, which sometimes people have to go in for more brain surgeries, like repeatedly because the settings weren't right, and then they start having symptoms all over again. And if you don't get it fixed, then sorry, you're gonna die, and that shouldn't be, Um, and so it's
Okay.
my kind of part of the education and advocacy and awareness to help, you know,
And I'm
get
so
funding
glad.
for get a better cure.
Sure.
Maybe not a cure, but maybe better treatment options or a cure in my lifetime for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is, I love your attitude that it has not stopped you from what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that you get to the college and you have been graduated. So tell us more about this. Like, how does that impact your life? Mm, what have you learned throughout these procedures? What was have you ever thought, okay, it does not mean that I'm disabled, but I'm special.
Yeah.
I have special needs. I have to have a special care, but it will not stop me from what I plan to get in my life.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny, just because I spent, 9 years of my life like in and out of the hospitals. And so I got really accustomed to like the child life, which was just kind of an interesting experience for me, just because I was older. And so a lot of the activities were geared toward younger children, and they were also the same, like the same thing, like cookie decorating. We just changed the holiday, like cookie decorating for Halloween, Valentine's Day, Christmas, whatever, or hospital bingo. But a lot of the activities were geared towards the younger children too. And so I wouldn't go to them and, didn't have that socialization. And yeah, the hospital that I was at had like a teen lounge. I don't know that I went down to it as much, or I don't know if I took advantage of the resources that the hospital had, and maybe that's just why I just didn't have a good experience. I don't know. Wanna like so grateful for Hershey, and what they've done for me, so don't don't want to bash them at all, but just kind of felt left out. Like I wish that I had somebody to talk to, regarding growing up with a congenital medical condition, but also, um, dealing with the pressures of school and fitting in, adolescence,
Mhm.
puberty, all that stuff, and didn't really find that in the hospital. And so I always knew that I like wanted to give back either to the hospital, or to like the greater medical community at large, like once I got better. But I didn't know how, or lacked resources, time, to plan something, whatever. And anyway, it's like a whole, there's a couple different things that all kind of came together to get to the dream that I have today. And I think the first one was in 2017. I went on a trip with my university, with our theater department. We went overseas to France and Belgium, and
Mhm.
performed a 45-minute theater for young audiences piece, for the children of NATO dignitaries and their families, which was super cool. That the piece was student written, and like created like from the ground up. It was great. And I came back from that trip and I was like, man, I want to do this for the rest of my life. Like prior to that, I had wanted to I came into school thinking that I was going to become a theater critic or an entertainment writer. And I just came back from that trip to Europe, just thinking that was a very selfish goal. And, we're doing what we had done in Europe with the theater department, was, for the greater good, helping other people and not specifically self-serving. So anyway, that was the trip itself was in spring 2017. And then fall 2017, I came back to school and a professor had asked me to do this research team, focusing on drama therapy. Now, it was a collaboration between the theater department and the psych department. And basically their goal was at the time was just to find out like what drama therapy is, who it seeks to help, is it beneficial, like does it work, all those kind of things. And it was headed up by a girl who was a psych major with a theater minor, and there were a lot of students on the team who were psych majors. Some of them had theater minors, some of them had no experience with theater. But my professor, who is one of the theater professors, had asked me to join the team because of my background. My theater degree is actually based in like research and criticism and things like that. And so she thought that I, would be a good fit to come at it, to come at the project from a theater perspective. And I guess, I'm sorry, I'm jumping around here. Because then the same professor who had asked me to join the research team had brought this, one of her colleagues in 2016, 2015, I can't remember, to do a workshop on applied theater and drama, applied theater, which is basically using theater techniques outside of the performance space. So it's getting theater out into society, like using it to solve or alleviate, think of different solutions to everyday problems, like facing different groups of people, like homeless people, people who face different kinds of abuse, in my case, hospitals, whatever. And I remember thinking like, wow, this is so cool that you can use theater for the greater good, and take it outside of the performance space. But I'll never have this opportunity again to like drama therapy and applied theater will never come into my sphere again. I'll never get to practice it because I'm bad at improv, and a lot of that is based in improvisational work, just because it's based on like real life circumstances and things like that. So I was just like, well, this is cool, but I want to do it, but I'll never have that opportunity. So that was in, like I said, 2015, 2016, something like that. And then, went to the trip to Europe, spring 2017, joined the research team, fall 2017, spring 2018. And we presented at Research Week, which was great. And anyway, through my research for the research project, like my part of the project was focusing on who drama therapy seeks to help, with a focus on like the marginalized populations. And so I mainly focused on refugees, prisoners, and people who've faced different kinds of abuse. But while I was researching it, I was like, I wonder if you could use drama therapy in a hospital setting. And I didn't find a lot of research on that. I don't know if I wasn't researching, using the proper research techniques or keywords to be able to garner the results that I wanted. So I'm still a newbie. The research may be out there. I don't know. But I was like, what if this is it? Like, what if there is a way that I can, use the talents and the gifts that I have and the love that I have for theater to be able to give back to the hospital community that like gave me so much by using drama therapy, you know, to help give the kids something that I never had. And that was, you know, being able to work through their problems through like role play, you know, of growing up with a chronic medical condition and, you know, their re-entry back into school saying, you know, like, well, you've been out for a month. Where are you? Your head, you know, half your head is shaved. And, you know, practicing what you're going to say, like, well, it's not cancer. I have this medical condition called hydrocephalus, and it's where the cerebral spinal fluid doesn't drain off your brain. So, yes, I had brain surgery, and they had to shave my head. And they were only supposed to do, you know, this much. But they ended up shaving half my head. But so what? Like, this is who I am. Take it or leave it. You know, like being able to role play those situations so that when these people, you know, are in those situations, then they have the tools to be able to respond effectively. And then, you know, so anyway, so I would like to start.
Awesome.
To go to school, like right now, I've kind of broken it down into like smaller stuff. Like I want to go to school to get my degree in drama therapy, and it's just a matter of figuring out where I'm going to go because it's a lot more complicated with like licensure and regulation and things like that than I thought it would be. Especially because it seems like it depends on the state and the type of practice, like the type of space that you want to practice in. So, and, you know, because it's relatively new field, there's, you know, different schools offer different things, you know, different licensures for states. You know, there's not a lot of programming. And so, you know, just trying to figure out what programming is a good fit for me, first of all, but also like getting the experience that I need to go to grad school in terms of, you know, you say you want to work with these populations and do theater, well, like show us or, you know, working on my improv skills, like things like that. So anyway, so want to go to school for drama therapy, get a drama therapy degree, and start a program within the child life department at the hospital that I grew up at. You know, they, like I said, they have a child life department. They also have like a music therapy, art therapy program. So hopefully drama therapy shouldn't be too hard to get. Fingers crossed. But, you know, and then once I feel that like that program is well established, I'd like to take it overseas and work with like disabled refugee children, you know, whether they're in the hospital or not, or like in areas where specialized medical conditions aren't as well treated there as they are, you know, here in the US or in Europe, or like for cultures where having a disability is seen as a curse or they're looked down upon, especially with the young women and girls, which I know is like kind of hard because it's like, yes, I'm a normal looking white woman, but you know, I have a medical condition and like it's okay, you know, for all intents and purposes, I am normal. And you know what, like you can be too. And I don't know, I'm sorry, I'm gonna go on a little tangent here, and if you need to edit it or if you need me to edit it, we can talk about that later. But what I would love to do with it is use it like as a ministry, you know, to tell to be able to tell people about Jesus, you know, because that was something that I had growing up, was like, you know, what if this is why I had this medical condition, you know? Like, you know, I was always told that like, oh yes, God has you on this earth for a specific purpose, you know? And so maybe this is it. I don't know. But then also, you know, just through reading the Bible and taking some theology classes at school, like I took theology of suffering and disability, which was a really cool class while I was in college, just because it helped me see my disability in a whole new way. I, came across the verse in Mark, I think it is, like Mark 9, I think it's Mark 9:3, and it's, um, the rabbis or whatever asking Jesus, like, well, who sinned, this man or, his parents, that he was born blind? And Jesus responds, neither, but it happened so that like my glory may be displayed through the man that was born blind. And it's just like, wow, like, what if this is the reason, that I had this medical condition, and like being able to share that with people, being like, you know what, you have a medical condition and it's not a curse, but like, what if it is, to be able to bring you and bring other people to Christ, which is awesome, So
That's awesome. Okay, that's great. You just turned all sorts of feelings in me from the time that you told about your childhood and that they shaved your hair.
mm-hmm.
How that thing can lead you to your current major and your current dream of how you can help those children.
Yeah.
This circle, if I can call it a circle of life.
Definitely. I would say so, yeah.
It is so amazing. Like it's so incredible that it has not stopped you, and it even motivates you to direct your life toward the way that you can help other people. In a ministry way or in any way that you would like to form it. So you probably are looking for some sort of job to initiate the dream.
Yeah. So right now I'm actually looking into an internship in Chicago it's called the Institute for Therapy Through the Arts. And they have all the different types of arts therapy. So like fine art therapy, music therapy, dance movement therapy, and then of course drama therapy. And so like, I would get to be, they call it like an administrative intern. So I'd be doing like clerical work, I guess. But then also having like direct client hours with different populations, just to be able to see like, is this really what I want to do? But also like give me the experience for grad school, which was something, that my professors at my undergrad university were saying, like, this is a great dream. We support you 110%, but we feel you need more experience.
Okay.
Whether to say like, hey, like, yes, this is something that I really could spend the rest of my life doing, but also like getting exposure to, using arts as therapy, like in the clinical setting, and like get used to those tricks, tips, and techniques and things like that. But then also, even getting experience with, improvisational theater, because that's an area where I definitely lack. So yeah, definitely been seeking out those opportunities. And that's the one that's on the table right now. I'm in the interview process with them.
Okay.
And that would be an internship for the fall. So yeah, we'll see, we'll see where it goes from there. I had applied to some other places in the DC area that do, like, the one is a children's theater that has an access and inclusion program where they specifically use theater with students with disabilities. There's and then this company also has like an outreach theater program where it seems like they create a work of theater with students from marginalized groups. Like they have one for people in prison. One specifically focusing on like the Latin ex-refugee community, I guess, if you want to call it that. And then there's another one that I can't remember off the top of my head, but that and then there's another company that specifically focuses on art classes for people with and without disabilities. So it's inclusive. The neurotypical people are paired with disabled people, and help them create a work of art. But because of the pandemic, all that programming is like on hold. Virtual, they might not be accepting interns, things like that. So but there's always next year.
Yes, and I can understand this pandemic and how it can impact on all these services. So it makes it, I can understand that it's really make it hard for them to pursue what they have in place to do. But and on the other hand, maybe now people need these services more than ever.
Yeah.
And though it is hard to keep those like social distancing, masking, and all those things in place, but at the best condition, it's better to resume those programs. And I just want to tell you, like, do you feel, in my opinion, you can be the best candidate for those positions?
Yeah.
Because you have the experience of being in that medical condition, and now
and I think that's just always, it's fun for me to like get to write the the cover letters, or the essay questions, whatever, for those applications, just because it's another opportunity to share my story of like, well, why do you want to do this, and like how my personal life story connects to my dream. And for me, it's just a way to let, be authentic, and let the authenticity shine through, and make me stand out. But, it's not up to me, it's up to the admissions committee or whatever.
Exactly, that's the main point. And I just want to make this point that you have the experience, you have your past life have been through this. Now you have the knowledge, you have the passion for this, and this is something that you said that you can see that you can do this for the rest of your lives. Mm-hmm. And you have the vision that not only do it here, you want to expand it to overseas.
Yeah. And I think that's because like that stems from my trip to Europe for sure. We were told that we were going to be working with Turkish refugees, especially when we were in Paris. I don't know if we were like specifically. I know they did the second year that they specifically worked with refugees, and I was supposed to go on that trip, but then I didn't. So I didn't get to experience that, but it's okay. So I don't know, like on the first trip, if we interacted with them. I think like they might have come to, some of the performances, which actually it's really funny because it brings another story to mind from that trip that just kind of plays into all this too. So when we were preparing for the trip, we were preparing songs and skits and, people's stories to be able to take over to do a little like park pieces, whatever, little sketches in the park, whatever. And I knew like the way that the professor who led the trip was planning it. I didn't think I'd have a chance to be able to share my story just because he wanted people with stories that were similar, that had similar themes or similar trajectories to the themes that were portrayed in some of the, silent dramas that we were doing. And so, my story didn't relate to that. So I was like, man, I'm not going to be able to share my story with someone, and so I prayed that I would have the opportunity to be able to share my story with someone. And then we were presenting at a park in Paris, and I was actually on the stage. The skit that I was part of was up, whatever. And we were told, like, be prepared for whatever to happen. Like, you're going to have kids coming in and out. Like, it's not going to be like you sit and you watch the show. It's a park, it's an open space. And it's also like part of their culture. They're just going to come in and out, play soccer in the middle of the whatever. And so out of the corner of my eye, I see this guy, in the like caddy corner from me, across the playing field, and I could just sense that he had something wrong with him. Like, I didn't know what it was or whatever. But I was just like, dude, like, do not leave. And after we were done performing, like, I kept my eye on him for the rest of the performance, because I was like, dude, don't leave. Like, what if this is it? So after we were done, I went to our host in Paris, and I was like, hey, I really want to share my story with this guy. Can you help me? Well, she was busy. So then I ended up going to one of the other chaperones on the trip, who spoke French. And I was like, hey, like, can you come help me share my story with this guy? And it was really funny because I had started in French. I had said something like, I was born with a medical condition or something like that. Like, something very basic that I knew that off the top of my head that I could speak in French. But the rest of it, I didn't. So, like, it was good that I had the translator. But I just felt ashamed that I, couldn't finish it all in French, which is another story for another time, areas of improvement, whatever. But anyway, so I had said something about I have this medical condition that required me to have 9 brain surgeries or whatever. And then after I was done, the translator had turned to me and he had tears in his eyes. And he was like, this guy wants me to tell you, he's like, I don't know what it is in English, but it's like where your brain's bleeding. And I was like, oh, like a hemorrhage. He's like, yeah, that. And I said, okay, so what about it? He's like, well, this guy is telling me that he has a brain hemorrhage, which is, part of what I went through with hydrocephalus. And so I was like, shoot, like, no wonder I was supposed to talk to this guy, because he went through a similar life circumstance that I did. So, like, of course, this was like a divine intervention. I had to, it was no mistake. I had to share my story with this guy. And I don't know where he is to this day. I mean, I kept praying that people would come into his life and be able to minister to him in that way. And I hope that they did. And I hope that they were able to, share the healing message of Christ with him. But I don't know. So that was kind of like the beginning of wanting to do that, but also just seeing how, like, refugees to me are already like an overlooked kind of people group, or really marginalized, really struggling, whatever. And then you add the disability factor to it, and it's like a double whammy, like extremely cast aside. Especially because they seem like the kind of people that come from societies where it's bad to have a disability. And so, like, if I can share the hope with those people, then yeah, that would be really great.
The change is happening.
Really
yeah.
fun. I don't know.
Okay, that was a great story too. Like, I just would love to sit here and listen to all of your stories.
Yeah, sorry, it's not more organized. It just, I don't know.
It's perfect.
As I was talking with that one train of thought, it just came on, and I was like, oh, I had to share this story because I love sharing that story too.
Okay, that's awesome. That I really enjoyed talking to you. Is there any other things that you want to share with your peers. And so what can you tell them? What would be your message for them if you want to encourage them?
Yeah, I think the biggest message is to see the person for who they are, aside from their disability. Like their disability isn't part, like yes, it is part of who they are, but it's not the only thing that makes them them. I know like right now, like there's a statistic that's like the 81% of people with disabilities are unemployed, and like that's really sad. Like that shouldn't be. And I've had some conversations with other young adults in their 20s with hydrocephalus, and they're like dealing with this thing of, well, when do we disclose? Like, is there a possibility that we could get could get denied a job because of having a medical condition? And even though you're technically not supposed to, and even though the company may tell you otherwise, I know some of my peers are still thinking the same thing, like, oh my gosh, what if it is because I have a disability? And that's something that I'm wondering too. Even if I don't disclose it or get into any kind of specifics of what my disability entails, just kind of wondering, if my medical condition silently manifests itself, like people can just tell when they're talking to me that something's wrong with me or whatever. And that's why I'm like even passed over for interviews or anything like that. Like who knows? I don't know. I could be completely going out of the ballpark here with that. But, like seeing people apart from they are not their disability, and their disability is not them. Like get to know them aside from the disability. Like
That each human being has different aspect of life.
Yeah.
Physical, mental, intellectual, cultural, social, everything.
Mm-hmm.
A disability is just a portion of your maybe physical abilities.
Yeah.
No, it does not impact many other aspects of your life, your intellectual, your social, your spiritual, your other aspects of physical life. And so don't inclusive it to like, oh, like I am disabled, so I cannot do anything else.
Yeah, for sure.
And I hope this is not the way that the people with disability are thinking, though in many societies it has been forced to the disabled people.
Yeah.
And that is the thing that people of that society should change that.
Yeah.
I get. Definitely like your vision of going abroad and help other people, either refugees or other people, disabled people, can help them. But it can be a message for all people that disability is not
yeah, I'd say
disabled thing.
Yeah, like your disability is not like something to be ashamed of, but like
Absolutely.
rather to take pride in. I guess kind of like I was saying earlier, when I was younger, there was like that dichotomy of like, oh, I have a disability, like I'm different, and taking pride in that, but then also, assessing with the way that people were treating me, being like, like this isn't right. Like now I feel bad because I have it, and I'm not normal. But yeah, like wanting people to take pride in having a disability or whatever, and that it makes them special. Well, and I also personally, like, I don't know, I'm still like learning all the lingo, and it's changing, so I don't really know like what's proper and what's not. But I personally don't like the word disability because it implies that like you can't do something. And so like for me, it's just like, you know what, yes, there are some things that I can't do, and it might be because of my medical condition, but it might not be. It might just,
Yes.
it would be interesting to see, like, oh, if I didn't have this medical condition, like, would I still be the same way? I don't know. But geez, I don't know where I was going with this. But I guess like there are certain things that I can do, and I may do them differently than you, like because I have to compensate differently because of my medical conditions. But like I still get it done. Still get it done with like the same success rate or whatever. And so
You can be still successful and be even on top. Like the experience that you have with your life, it's not that everybody has. And that gives you a different perspective toward life and toward that you're doing. So I'm so glad. I'm so glad for you. Congrats you for all your achievement that you had.
Thank you.
And I can see that your vision about your future and your dramatherapy is it can change the world, especially the disabled people world. I wish that there was another word than disabled or disabilities, but with medical condition, maybe.
That's why I say like differently.
I agree.
Or like medical condition. I don't know.
Yeah, I like that better. I like that much better.
And like I don't know. I guess it also depends on the person too, and just I guess advice for able-bodied people, like listening to the person with the medical condition and how they refer to themselves, and then just pick up that vernacular too.
Yes, that's right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
I enjoyed talking to you, and I wish and pray that your applications for those internship has been get through, and you get your dream job, and that you can impact other people's lives.
Thank you.
If you're watching this and you find this helpful for yourself or for other people, please feel free to share it to those people that you know that this can bring them some messages and some inspiration to go for their lives. And share your opinion in the description below, and subscribe to this channel so you will get more of these interviews with successful students and their life stories.